can go out there and find a job if they want it and if they're willing to work. There's such a shortage of workforce everywhere across the country. So that's why community colleges everywhere across the country are struggling for enrollment, some more than others. And maybe not so ironically, it's also happening in areas with exploding economies. Our economy here, obviously doing better. We don't have an exploding economy in the southern tier the way many of the small and major metropolitan areas do in the south and the west. They're struggling, in spite of the fact that they have growing populations and we do not. We have shrinking population, more on that in a minute. Their economies are so strong, people are working more than even around here. So even in the fast-growing communities around the nation, community colleges are struggling for enrollment, and if your funding is enrollment-based, you're struggling to fund your college. A lot of colleges in major booming metropolitan areas are struggling because everybody's working. So it goes both ways. Our economy's not that strong, and our population is shrinking. So that's kind of a double whammy for us. And then we have the Excelsior Scholarship, which is a great thing. In the bigger realm of public policy, I think it ought to be the future of the country. Something like the Excelsior Scholarship needs to be fixed and tweaked and all that, like any new public policy. But I think it's the philosophy behind it, I think, is a great one. But SUNY has the data. It tends to favor the state ops for obvious reasons. When it appears as if it costs the same to go to a state op as it does to a community college, where community colleges have historically forever had the price advantage, and that appears not to be the case any longer in New York. Even though it is the case, it doesn't appear so on the surface for many people. So we have three strong headwinds that we're facing here, which makes our accomplishment of these last few weeks all the more remarkable. The major headwind that we are facing, and why we need retention efforts more than ever, and a silver lining to lower enrollment, and our enrollment will be lower, just won't be as low as it might have been and where some of our peers are, is that retention tends to go up because there's more of us per student. So we can spend at least mathematically a little more time with each student because there are fewer students around just naturally. So there is a silver lining to lower enrollments. The real challenge is the challenge of a shrinking population and lower enrollments isn't going to go away for New York and really the entire Northeast anytime soon. The real challenge for us is our population is shrinking faster than any other region in New York. We are going to lose far more of our high school graduates between now and 2024 by several percentage points than any other region in New York. Several percentage points more of our high school graduates will not be here 6 years from now. It's just reality. And you look at community colleges in small communities, they're small. You look at community colleges in large communities, they're large. It's not like a university where they drop them all over the place. The size of your community college is largely a function of the size of your community all across the country. And our community is shrinking, and particularly with our core market. We're going to lose 25% of our core market. And we know because you can count all the kids in school going back from senior year back through middle school and elementary school. You know who's coming up, unless you have a big influx of population like some metropolitan areas do around the nation. We know we have a much bigger outflow than we do inflow in this region. In fact, I was stunned to learn that New York is losing, the metropolitan New York City is losing its indigenous population. Nowhere near the level we are of high school graduates. Well, in the same period, we'll lose almost 25%, they'll lose 3%. But they have more people moving in to New York City than they do moving out. We don't. It's going the other way here. It's just a straight out demographic reality that we face. So our core market is 60% of our students. It's the lion's share of our revenue right now, unless Albany changes how we're funded, which I've been talking about the whole 8 years I've been here. They are beginning to talk about it. But it's just a reality that we have to face. So we either have to look elsewhere for a student population if we want to be the size 5 years from now that we are today, or roughly, or we have to do business quite differently and be prepared to contract over the next 6 years with our core market. We do have a huge opportunity in the adult market. We are upside down from the nation with our adult market. We are 60% traditional students, 40% some older students. The nation as a whole, if you put all of us in one bucket, all community college population, it's the other way around. 60% are 21 or 25 and older, and 40% are the traditional student out of school. So we do have an opportunity there. However, what that means is most folks in that category are working. They're not going to come here between 8 in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They're going to go online, they're going to go on weekends, they're going to go in the evenings, they're going to do hybrid. Our regular schedule isn't going to help to reach more of that market. And we should reach more of that market where our economy is going. We have a very large market here in the southern tier, twice the national average of people who have some college and no degree. We're twice the national average for that population. So we have no choice. If we continue doing what we're doing, we're just gonna, we might shouldn't dramatically overnight like some of our sister institutions have if we keep doing what we've been doing. Or certainly at the very least, we will continue to contract every year for the next 6 years if we continue doing what we've been doing all these years. There just is no way around it. Unless we could build more residence halls. It's not likely to happen soon. That's a whole different market because there's so much competition downtown among other things. There are empty spaces already in student housing downtown, have been for a couple of years. But we are going to have to do business differently if we even want to remotely maintain where we are and grow incrementally with whatever the state can give us and whatever the county can give us and whatever we can do with the limitations on raising tuition. Because our student body is just not likely to grow. Now, we've got all the tools to do it, and many colleges around the country are doing it, and some in the Northeast, in spite of having the greatest demographic challenges in the nation as the Northeast does. Some in the middle part of the country as well are experiencing the same kind of demographic downshift. But there's a number of things we need to do differently. Scheduling, I already referred to scheduling. One simple one we need to do. It will not be easy, but I know we can do it, even if it goes down to more hybridization, is we can never again start school on the day after the college is closed. We should not do that. It can cost our students, and I can't go into all the details, it's very complicated. It can cost our students thousands of dollars of bad debt, or our potential students thousands of dollars of bad debt. I don't want to get, unless we want to be open on Sundays. If we want to be open on Sundays, then we can start school on Monday. Or if we want to be open on Martin Luther King Day, we could start school the day after Martin Luther King Day. It's complicated, but we need to start school in the middle of the week, or on a Tuesday, or something. We can't start the day. It makes things really hard on a lot of people, our students, our finance staff, our management staff, to start the day after we're closed. We've got to do that differently. Like some of our sister institutions, after decades, have gone to starting after Labor Day. That's asking a lot, I know. But some of our sister institutions have lost so much enrollment. They've been forced to start after Labor Day. The old paradigm is just simply dying, slowly but surely. You've seen all the ads from the University of Southern New Hampshire, which used to be a tiny little private school, and now is rapidly becoming one of the largest private universities in the nation, because they've totally blown up the old paradigm. We've got to use more digitization in the class. I know we use a lot. We got to use more. Generation Z is here. My son is he's starting his junior year here in 2 weeks. He's Generation Z. Some like to call them the digital generation. He's grown up with a handheld device basically since the day he was born, and as soon as he could hold one. He either asks Siri or Alexa a question on the hour, every hour. And he gets the answers to some interesting questions that can be pretty complicated on the hour, every hour. I don't know how much of that we're using in our classrooms. I read in Chronicle and Inside Higher Ed, some faculty are allowing students to do that and working it into their, faculty are working it into their pedagogy. That's the world they're going to live and work in. It's just that simple. That is the world they are going to, they are already living and working in that world. They're going to live and work in that world. And their work world doesn't care where they get the right answer from, as long as they get the right answer. They want it right, and they want it as fast as they can get it, especially in this economy. So I don't know how many of you are using Alexa, Siri, or Google in your classrooms, but clearly our students are going to use technologies like that for the rest of their lives. Now, you might recall, historians, that it took 300 to 400 years for the textbook to make it into the classroom, for the book to make it into the classroom. Books were around for between 300 and 400 years before they began to be used in university. University was the traditional classical model of teachers for almost 400 years before the book was introduced to the classroom. I hope it's not going to take that long for Siri and Alexa and Google to do that, or for Watson AI. I don't know if you've kept up, I'm sure our computer science folks have, with what Watson artificial intelligence is capable of doing today. Watson is becoming more accurate at diagnosing disease than doctors. How long before Watson will be teaching medicine? I don't know. Maybe Watson already is, but we don't have medical schools yet. We don't have one going to go to Syracuse, but it's just incredible what's going on with AI. The paradigm is changing. How many of you remember a movie named The Name of the Rose? They said The Name of the Rose, Sean Connery, and when Christian Slater was a child actor. Terrific movie. Not the work either one of them is known for today. Terrific movie. It was about the invention of the book, basically. And those who could read and could use the technology, printing and binding was the digital technology of that era. The printing press changed the world just as digitization is changing the world. And those who could read had the power, and as other people were learning to read from these books, as books were more widely available, just as digital media is more widely available, were beginning to build their own power. And the people who historically could read, many of them clergy, noblemen, were threatened by the loss of that power. Just as we are with social media. Same type of dynamic. Great movie if you haven't seen it. That the invention of the book led to all manner of nefarious behavior, as you can imagine, just as social media has. And I wonder if, as higher educators, we're afraid to give up our power to digitization. It's going to more and more be taken from us all the time, as it is through digital media. But how much of it are we willing to give up incrementally, organically, before we take control of it? If we are afraid of digitization, or we remain afraid of it, we'll go the way of the horse and buggy, or the printing press. Just look what's happening to printed media all over. OERs, anybody? How many of you use OERs in your classes? Matter of time before it's all OERs, which is a great thing for community college students because it saves them so much money, and so many of our students are economically challenged. So, digitization has taken over. It's certainly taken over our social culture. Again, if you have teenagers or 20-somethings in the house, you know it has. It will take over us if we don't take over it. Or we resign ourselves to shrinking right alongside our region's population. We are the community's college, period. Do we follow the community, or do we lead it? Do we lead it to a bigger, better, stronger future? I certainly think we can. And there are lots of opportunities to do the latter. And I know some of you have begun discussing them already. I mentioned a couple here just a few minutes ago. Scheduling. Not just scheduling of getting students registered and paid, scheduling of classes, more creative with our online. We have a great foundation with our online currently, one of the best foundations in SUNY. So we've got a good start, way ahead of a lot of our sister institutions. We've got to move toward more hybridization, which is the model of the day, especially for working adults. Here we have behind us the monk. I assume more Nolan, but it looks like a monk reading a text or probably the Bible. A classic image. You've seen all kinds of images like this in the history books over the years. And then you have the play button, juxtaposing the two eras in technological history. That printed book, I can't tell if that was printed or hand scribed as the early books were before the printing press came along. But that technological era did the same to the world as digitization is doing today. There they are juxtaposed with images from the era of the book to the era of digitization. And I know in a lot of ways we are preparing our students for the digital age. They're preparing themselves for the digital age, whether we like it or want them to or not. Now let's fast forward from that technological revolution to the digital technological revolution. Some of you have probably seen this. Or as a friend of mine put it recently, the question is not whether our students are college ready, but whether we are student ready prepared. I hadn't heard that before. A philosopher, actually, who heads a small private college out in the Midwest. So many of those jobs exist in this region today. There's a real shortage of truck drivers. There's a shortage of people to work in the distribution facilities, the warehouses. You saw the robots doing the warehouse. A tremendous shortage of people to work in the huge warehouses here for Mainz and Willow Run. Willow Run turned down a nearly $1 billion contract recently because they felt they could not get enough people to meet the orders. And soon, they won't need them. How are we going to help them? Because if Willow Run shrinks, we shrink. It's just, again, unless we go to markets outside our region that is so dramatically shrinking. So just some realities. It is what it is, as people like to say here in New York. We've been doing very, very well compared to our peers in the old paradigm. We've been slowly shifting our paradigm, which is one of the reasons why we've been doing so well, the main reason why we've been doing so well in comparison, relatively speaking, to not just our peers in New York, but many of our peers across the country, is because of all of you. But we now have to figure out a way to build that new paradigm for our students and our community and lead the way for all of them. And I know that we can do it, and you'll talk more about that maybe later this morning, and certainly throughout the academic year. Thank you very much for all you do for our students and our community.
All theories of change, especially the trans-theoretical model, talks about change processes. Most important thing is a sense of urgency. I think we just heard that. And now it's our opportunity to really look at it, think about it, reflect on it, and develop meaningful strategies. Things that we're already doing, things that we need to do, as Dr. Drum said, very differently. Now that part of the program where we bring a student up to perform for us, which is always one of my favorite parts of this. Professor Brenda Daw to the stage.
Good morning. This is on. Yes, here we go. So before Marissa sings, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about her start at SUNY Broome. I thought it was interesting that you mentioned chaos, because chaos sometimes goes with Marissa a little bit. The spring of 2016, we were 2 weeks into the semester when I got a call from Tom Quain, and he said, "We have a student here. I'm wondering if you can help. Is it too late?" 2 weeks into the semester, halfway through, and I said, I don't know why. I said, "Well, what's her name? What's the name?" And he said, "Marissa Kreiber." I knew Marissa. She was 22 years old, and I had known her when she was in high school, and I said, "I think we can make this work." So between trailer courses, and I put her in some of mine, and I worked with her to get her up to speed, and we made it work, and she was on the president's list that first semester. So she's been at SUNY Broome, and she's been doing great. We've still had some chaos here and there. Last semester, we took her to NATS, and she had to compete against third and fourth year college students at four-year institutions. She held her own and made it into the semifinals, so that was pretty amazing. This semester, again, we have chaos, because just by a fluke, I happened to notice she was not on my class list. She wasn't on the deregistration list, and her whole schedule is gone. So right after this, she's going to go and try to get a schedule. We don't know how it happened, but we all know this does happen. I guess there was a parking ticket and a small balance. So once again, chaos is surrounding Marissa. And so this is what's going to happen right after today, and I hear by the mumbling, you all know this happens. So she's gonna come sing for you. You know, when we just all saw that robot thing that was so cool. In music, yes, there is technology, but one thing about music that makes me not afraid as robots take jobs, music is something that robots can't do, because as we sing and we perform, it's always there to make you feel. So as she sings, sit back, listen, and let her touch you, because a robot can't do that. Marissa?
This song is called Oh. This song is called Fly, Fly Away from Catch Me If You Can. When I was a child, my eyes were clear. I saw the good side. But that's the kind of second sight that doesn't last too long. Then when I was lost, I heard a voice that brought me healing. That's the kind of special hope he brought me with his song. People only saw the doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, but he was just a lonely little boy to me. With his sweet and gentle touch, he sure unlocked my soul. So in return, I surely want to help to set him free. And now I want to see him fly, fly. I'll be your alibi, my baby. Fly, fly, fly away. We didn't get to say goodbye, goodbye. No need to tell me why, my baby. Maybe it's because you'll fly back home to me one day. Men who they call real were really fakes that left me nothing. But this man you call a fake gave me something real. I've known cruel, cruel men with Christian names that taught me manners. But this man without a name taught me how to feel. They only saw the magic tricks, the smoke, the mirrors. Was I the only one to ever see the boy? With his sweet and gentle touch, he sure unlocked my soul. You will fly back home to me one day.
Now, listen, that was powerful. Brenda, I'm glad you broke the rules. And I want to point out, hopefully you saw the art exhibit. Patricia Evans' first year students did the art exhibit that's in the entry. If you saw it, Faces, the full display is on at the library, really powerful. Let's give them a round of applause. There's also an ongoing exhibit right now at the gallery that's absolutely beautiful, and I encourage you to go there. And now I'd like to welcome to the stage our shared governance chairs that are outgoing. Dr. Giovanni Scaringi, Dr. Denise Abrams, and Corinne Surrey to the stage. And I think they're going to introduce our new incoming officers.
Morning, everyone. Morning. Can everyone hear me? Just wanted to come up and say thank you for everyone who has been involved, obviously, in shared governance over the last year, for our new chair-elects, Sierra Cable and for COI, and SUNY Broome for CAI. It's been an absolute honor over the last 2 years for me to be able to serve as chair of CA. It would not be possible without Dr. Denise Abrams, who's been chair of CAI, as well as Corinne Surrey, who's been chair of COI. They've just been phenomenal to work with, and I'm publicly going to say this because I think she deserves it. Shared governance on this campus does not work without Penny Delphi. Penny, you are just absolutely amazing. I just got the card. You're ready. So anyway, as I had mentioned to me and Sierra, our new chair-elects, currently the chair for College Assembly is vacant. And I should also, as well, forgive me, point out as well, Professor Stephanie Malberg. I don't know if she's here. She is actually our representative for the Faculty Council of Community College. And she's been phenomenal to work with as well. Thank you. For those of you who know, obviously shared governance is a unique mixture of both our internal as well as our external environment. We have the Student Assembly, we have the Council for Academic Issues, the Council for Operational Issues, with College Assembly as this umbrella governance organization working with staff, colleagues, administrators, as well as the board. Primarily, we serve three functions. We communicate, we take things in, we collaborate, trying to come up with new solutions that really are broad, diverse, and inclusive, that ensure that every voice on campus is being heard. And again, it's very important to remember that we are a reviewing and recommending body only. There are a number of ways in which you can bring an issue to shared governance, either any of the outgoing chairs or our chair-elects. Penny, it could be through an officer that represents your specific constituency. You can email. COI did an incredible undertaking headed up by Corinne Surrey over the last 2 years. They completely redid the shared governance portion of SUNY Broome's website. It's absolutely incredible. It's easy. The UI is just phenomenal. You can put a recommendation or concern there as well. It'll be disseminated at that point to the respective body, and then we'll look at from that point. We had a great year in review. A lot of things that we all collectively did, so I'll just take 30 seconds and run through this. It was brought forward to all of shared governance with regard to the establishment of a presidential task force on anti-bullying policies. Glad to say that through our collaborative efforts, working with President Drum and the administration, we're moving forward with that. That'll start fall of 2018. The coach survey results that were the original survey that was disseminated in spring 2017. A committee was made to undertake viewing those. There were a lot of people, so I want to thank everyone who was involved with that. And those will be coming up further this coming fall. Many of us attended SUNY Voices Conference. Obviously, we have Middle States accreditation for our campus coming up in academic years 2020 and 2021. So we played a crucial role in that. The revision of satisfactory and unsatisfactory grades and retroactive course withdrawals that was headed up by CAI, so thank you, Dr. Raven. And we also work closely with the textbook committee to improve student access to textbooks and increase use of OERs that an increased number of our colleagues and faculty members are now using, as Dr. Drum had spoken about earlier. The painstaking every annual process that many of us are aware of with regard to the SUNY Chancellor's Awards, taking all those in and getting those prepared and done. Putting forward recommendations for the SUNY Broome academic appeals procedure. Dr. Battisti actually did write us a formal recommendation saying that he supported these changes, and we'll look to collaborate on those in the near future. And then lastly, forgive me, two left. Research the feasibility of additional gender-neutral restrooms throughout our entire campus, different buildings, as well as the involvement and implementation of campus initiatives aimed at reducing student textbook costs. So that is where we stand right now. If anybody wants to be chair of CA, please come and let me know. I am outgoing, so, but other than that, I just want to thank everyone again, Penny, Stephanie, and everyone for bringing a more diverse and inclusive environment. Thank you very much.
I've really appreciated the working relationship we have with shared governance, because if I had to make those decisions myself, it's too complicated. Shared governance brings in all your senses of things, and we may not always agree, but the conversation, as mentioned, and the collaboration is essential to an educational institution. And now it's my pleasure to bring and to welcome to the stage Dr. Sesame Adanu, our Dean for Institutional Effectiveness, who's going to talk a little bit about this little thing we got going on. I'm not sure what it is. Yes, Middle States coming in 2021, and we got a lot of work to do. So here's Dr. Adanu to give us some ideas.
Thank you, Dr. Battisti. I was fortunate about the length of my slide about trying to make it as possible. As you just heard, we'll be getting ready for Middle State self-study. It's a 10-year reaccreditation for the college. And before we get to that point, there are certain basic things we need to start getting ready for. One of the things we have to be, looking at the course catalog and basically deactivating all courses that have not been taught for decades or years that faculty will not be offered. Because if we still have them in the catalog, the expectation will be that we assess them. We want to get it all cleaned up. We also want to make sure that we have, for all academic programs, listed on the website, as well as in the course catalog, have clearly stated program mission statements, program learning outcomes, course learning outcomes, clearly stated and then posted on the website. These are all Middle States expectations when they come over. The same should be done for academic disciplines. By disciplines, I'm talking about areas like biology, English, chemistry. We don't have academic programs listed. We need to make sure we have that taken care of too. For operational outcomes, we need to, especially for areas like health sciences that have programs where the expectation will be to make sure that students, when they pass, graduate from the programs, also get to their licensure exams successfully. Transfer out rates for areas like liberal arts. If you have areas like that, we want to make sure we have learning, operational outcomes listed as well. Then for the administrative unit, which will be the non-teaching side, it's Middle States expectation that we have, listed for each of the units, unit outcomes, goals, missions, all posted on the main page for each area. We're currently working on that. We want to make sure all that is in place. And then start this fall semester, there will be assessment facilitators attached to each division. And the goal is to have these assessment facilitators work with department chairs to undertake mapping as well as assessment-related work. One of the key pieces we need for our new assessment software will be to ensure that all course learning outcomes are mapped to institutional learning outcomes, gendered learning outcomes, gendered learning outcomes where applicable, so we can have all this roll to the new assessment software we have. Our expectation is to not use Google Forms, which is what we currently use for student learning outcome assessment, hopefully by the end of this semester. So come spring 2019, we are expecting to start using the new assessment software, and we can do it without having all this mapping done. We need a faculty help with that. So the self-study process hopefully will officially start, when a team of up to 4 individuals go to the Middle State Self-Study Institute this November. And the goal is to have more insight on the expectations as far as writing of the report is concerned. Once this team comes back, the next phase will be to write what is called a self-study design, which will be approved by Middle State, based on which we'll be writing the report. And one of the things the visiting team will do when they come on campus is to meet with different groups across campus, as well as just maybe walking around, see people around them, and want to have a sense of whether we are familiar with our vision statement, goals, and values. So we encourage everyone to get familiarized with this. It's currently on the website. If you went to the SUNY Broome page, click on About. On the right top corner, you see a picture of the strategic plan. Click on it. It has all the information you need. And also, as stated by Middle State, this is work that involves the entire campus. It's not just for the steering committee and the working groups. So we encourage you all to help us get this done, to have a successful visit. Hopefully this fall semester, Dr. Graham will email out the list of working group members. So once that is done, the group will start reviewing the 7 standards based on which will be assessed, and then identify what gaps we have that needs to be addressed for the team visits. If you have any questions, follow up with me later. Thank you.
Yes, a lot of work. I want to point out, it was mentioned, Gio mentioned the red card. We have timers here because we try to time all of this stuff. So if you see Penny putting up a sign or whatever, it means to move us on. We're a little bit behind, so I'm going to try to move as quickly as we can. It's my time to talk a little bit about academic fairs, about the stuff that we do here. We talked about chaos. I introduced that earlier. It's not a wrong thing, it's just a reality. It's not a bad thing. Well, again, you're hearing Middle States, day-to-day operations, retention, diversity, campus culture, what's going on in the community, what's going on nationally. You can get overwhelmed by this, and you can start like popcorn, start doing all kinds of things, running around, sort of like AFib. The heart's doing a lot, but it's not getting any place. Well, I think we got to approach it a little differently. So here's a clip that I'd like you to see.
Greatest game there is. Right, Harvey? Yes, sir. The greatest game there will ever be. Just you, nobody knows. Time for what? Time for you to see the field. The field? I see the field. It's 445 yards long. It's got a little red flag in there. It's 12 strokes ahead of you. Because if you seen the field, you wouldn't be hanging at that ball like you was chopping weeds out on your front porch. Just move the club. So I got to go. You're going to take that back away. what's a field?
Fix your eyes on Bobby Jones.
He's a piece of work there right now.
Knock it up there, bro.
Just practice for him. Almost like he's searching for something. Then he finds it. Until he set himself right to the middle of it. Feel that focus. You got a lot of shots he can choose from. Duffs and tops and skulls. There's only one shot that's in perfect harmony with the field. One shot that's his. Authentic shot. And that shot is going to choose him. There's a perfect shot out there trying to find each and every one of us. What we got to do is get ourselves out of its way. Let it choose us. Look at him. He in the field. Can't see that flag as some dragon you got to slay. At the look with soft eyes. See the place where the tides and the seasons and the turn of the earth all come together. And everything it is becomes one. We got to seek that place with your soul, John. Seek it with your hands. Don't think about it. Feel it. Your hands is wiser than your head ever won't be. I can't take it, Adrian. Just hopes I can help you find a way. That's you, that ball, that flag, and all you are. Seek it with your hands. Don't think about it. Feel it, finish it, feel it. It's just you, the one who shot that's incredible. That ball, you can see it. It's the home of your authentic swing, that flag, and all that you are.
So, we can let all that stuff around us get us all caught up, or we can decide what is it we really are about. One of the things that I like to do, my staff knows, is I ask a lot of questions, we think about things. Doesn't mean that that's the thing we're going to do, but we got to look at all the possibilities to really get down to what's the real sense of people as much as possible. I like to look at the vision of the college that we worked on. Learning today and transforming tomorrow. What we do today has a major impact on this community that was mentioned. We all, how many of us are graduates of SUNY Broome? Okay, we're all here, we do a lot of work. we have a big impact. And that's an important piece to keep in mind. What we're doing today for that student who we let in, a couple weeks after or whatever, that's an important piece. And then his whole mission says what we're all about. SUNY Broome Community College supports all members of the learning community, all of us, by creating access to inclusive, diverse educational experiences. Success is achieved through the provision of innovative academics, transformative student support, and meaningful civic and community engagement. Now we can discuss, we'll discuss that totally. That's what the whole shared governance is all about, but this is what we do. I came here, I was a first generation student, didn't even think I would be here, basically got here so I didn't have to go to Vietnam. And I got to know faculty, especially in the English department, who taught me about studying, who taught me to get something done, and I never left. I'm still here. The point being, we're all into this, and I know we do this, and I know you do it in your classroom. So thinking about it from an academic point of view, our team got together this summer, CAO team, we met with some staff, we met with some faculty, we put together, and it's on your table, we put together our goals for the year. And I've asked each dean to bring it back to the division, meet with the chairs, meet with the faculty, and come up with some action plans. Not 1,000 action plans, not all this kind of stuff. Stuff we're doing and enriching what we're doing. The other day, Rob Lofthouse, is Rob here? Where's Rob? He's probably meeting with some students. He put together a program for entrepreneurs and faculty down at the Innovation Center downtown. And it was packed. There was a lot of people. They had great food. I don't know who paid for it. Probably find out in a few days. But it was just really good to bring it together. That's the kind of stuff. So we're running low on time, and so I'm going to cut mine way down. So look at those goals there. Again, high quality academic culture. That's why we're looking at programs. Again, we're shrinking, so we're looking at programs, assessing the need regionally now, just not in this community, looking at something like learning systems, looking at controlled environmental agriculture, moving into the whole field of plant science. Is that a possibility? And I like to call it magnet programs. That's what the Culinary Center is all about, bringing people from outside the area into the area. Because as Dr. Drum mentioned, it's not just the people that are here. A lot of other things that are going on in that area. The achieving success that was mentioned, I'm going to cut through a lot. We have the honors program. We have, these programs, the things that give us a richness. Incorporate a diverse range of academic affairs, faculty and staff members in assessment and analysis. That was the call that Sesame just gave us for middle states. We all need to be involved in assessment, not be afraid of it. It's a richness. It lets me do what I'm doing in the classroom. Is it really doing what I think it's going to do? And it gives me a way to get some input. And that's the assessment, that's the reflection that we do in the classroom, that we do in all of our areas as much as possible. Implement student retention efforts. I just want to bring one up, the Starfish. We've had it for 3 years, going into the 4th year. We know it works. We've done the research. If you look at this, and I can send it out to people, it's already been sent out, but I'll send it out again. Those people working with the Starfish process, those students that are involved in it, do much better in retention. Retention is the answer. Our retention figures are going down, and we need to get them up. We need to work that fall to fall. If we can get the fall to fall increase, we don't have to worry about all this last minute, how many numbers. It drives everybody crazy. But we know, prospectively, looking over 8 years, we know what our enrollment's going to be. We got those projections, but retention can change it. And I do want to thank, I'm not going to skip over this, I do want to thank the members of the Starfish Car team, and I'm going to forget them now. Michelle Beatty, Lawson, is she here? She's probably on the phone with some students, getting students. Leslie Reed is a new member of it. Beth Mullen is a new member, and Lauren, you know I'm terrible at names. Here we go. Lauren Bunnell, your father will shoot me, the core members of that team, doing a lot of work. We also know that students have a higher success rate that are involved in it, and a lower dropout rate. So we know it works, but it can only work if people use it, buy into it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And what I like about the team, there's also crazy making about the team, is they're always changing it, and getting input from faculty to make it as effective as possible. Here's the areas that are working with it: the academic coaches, EOP, the TRIO program, Student Success Squad, Accessibilities Resource Office, the Dean of Students, financial aid, residential life, applied learning, tutoring, advising. And when we started, we had a handful of people. Now it's really great momentum. So I encourage you, increase the focus on campus diversity. Look at our community. Our community is diverse. This has to be a place that people are comfortable at. This has to be a place that we need to really do a lot of work in that area. And you'll hear more about that in a few minutes. I was with a mother yesterday. I met her right outside when I was at the Criminal Justice Department. And she was with her son, they're from the Bronx and so on. And she said, you know, is this place okay for my son? Is this place safe? And we talked, we had a pretty good extensive discussion. And I said, you know, we're getting there. There's a lot more we got to do, but, you know, let me know. We brought him down to admissions. When I came here, I felt connected. Every student who comes here needs to feel connected, and you know that. You know that as much as I do, if not more. And we've got to work towards that. And then invest in professional development. The changes, and you'll hear about that in a few minutes, that we're developing in professional development, I think are vast. So, I'm sorry to move so quickly, but I better get moving. I've been looking forward to, where's Jen Musa? Come on up. Jen Musa, this past year we had a literacy program. We had that at the TV studio. And she gave a lecture, like in 5 minutes, on the brain, right? It was amazing. I learned something about the brain. It really was. And so Jen's going to be here talking about examining, and she'll explain the whole thing. Good to have you here.
Morning, everybody. So I'm on the Distance Learning Steering Committee, and for the past couple of years, we've been working on solutions for proctoring online exams. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about a pilot project we did and how that turned out. But I want to start with a couple of thank yous. I want to extend a special thank you to Jamie Heron-Starr for all the work she did researching possible online solutions and also helping to set up the pilot. I want to thank the entire Distance Learning Steering Committee, especially John Colbert, for all the help he gave to my students who had to take exams on campus. And thank you to my magnificent colleagues in the biology department for all of their help and support. So, we are using a service called Examity. Examity is an online proctoring solution, and this particular service is the one that the college is using and testing at this time. There are others, but this is the one that we're using. I took part in the pilot as a member of the Distance Learning Steering Committee and also as a faculty member who teaches online. And for the pilot, I used my fully online Bio 131, which is an anatomy and physiology course. It's particularly well suited for online proctoring because just by the nature of this course and the content in the course, we tend to rely pretty heavily on short answer exam questions. Also, this particular course is required by some of our accredited health science programs here at Broome, and we know that we're going to have to answer some questions about what we're doing to preserve exam integrity. So, let me tell you a little bit about how Examity works. Instructors have a lot of different options to choose from when they decide on what kind of proctoring they want. It can be something as simple as just verifying the identity of the student who's taking the class, all the way up to live proctoring, which means that the student is actually watched online by another person for the entire exam. Students pay a fee for each proctored exam, and they pay that fee when they sign up and make an appointment to take the exam. So I chose to try the level 2 proctoring, which is called record and review, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. But my students had to pay $11 plus tax for each proctored exam. I chose to have 2 of my 4 lecture exams proctored, so the students had to pay about $25 for the semester for proctoring fees. So what exactly is this level 2 and how does it work? I know a lot of people maybe aren't familiar with what online proctoring is. What you're seeing on the screen now is some of the information that's available to the instructor after the proctoring. How does it work for the student? They choose a time that they want to take their exam and they make an appointment. At the time of the appointment, they log on to Examity and they're connected through audio and video with a proctor. The proctor verifies the identity of the student and then actually inspects the student's workspace to make sure that there's no papers, there's no electronic devices, things like that. Then the student begins the exam and the proctor signs off. But the student and the student's desktop are recorded for the entire exam. After the exam, that recording goes back to Examity and is reviewed by a human being. If there's anything suspicious in that video, then the person who reviewed it will put some notes and a timestamp on it. Very briefly, they use kind of a flag system to alert the instructor. So if I had 70 students take an hour-long exam, I don't need to go watch 70 hours of exam taking. I can look for a flag, zoom right to the part of the video that I need to look at, and make a determination if I need to take any action. That part of the process worked very well. Let me show you some of the data from the pilot. What I did is, in the spring semester, all 5 sections of Online Bio 131 had 2 proctored exams. I'm going to show you a comparison between my fall 2017 class, which you see in yellow here, and my spring 2018 class that was proctored, which you see in black here. What you're seeing are overall averages for about 50 students who took the exams. Remember, I only proctored 2 exams, the 2nd and the 4th exam. So when it wasn't proctored, the average was around 82. When it was proctored, a 58. Okay, and then for the last exam, not proctored, 81, proctored, 40. Okay, here's a picture of me after the 2nd exam. Okay, I was concerned, I was kind of surprised, but on the other hand, I thought maybe people were just a little freaked out by being recorded, and maybe they weren't as prepared as they thought they were going to be. And here's a picture of me after the 4th exam. I have to say, I was absolutely shocked by these results. Why was I shocked? I thought we were doing a pretty good job of making sure that we had integrity in our online exams. For those of us who teach anatomy and physiology online and on campus, we try to make the online course mirror the on-campus course, right? Same learning objectives, same exam questions. The students who take the exams online take timed exams. They have a little less than a minute per question. Questions are scrambled, answers are scrambled, exams are not open for review. And I guess most of all, every student who takes my online class signs and submits an academic honesty pledge stating that they know they cannot use any outside sources during their exams, and they will not. Okay, so I was surprised to see these results. A little deeper look. The yellow dots you're seeing are the fall 17 lecture exam 4 scores, the black dots, the spring 18 lecture exam scores. These are exactly the same exams, same questions. Okay, I kept them the same because of the pilot. A few students didn't do well in the fall. All the students didn't do well in the spring. The only difference being the proctoring. If we try to take a look at individual student data within the spring semester, all the little numbers you see on the x-axis are individual students. This is their score on the 3rd exam in yellow, which wasn't proctored, and the 4th exam in black, which was proctored. This was startling because usually the lowest scores of the semester are on the 3rd exam. It's the hardest exam of the semester. I had students who had 80s and 90s on the 3rd exam, and 20s and 30s on the 4th exam. These are students that passed a quiz a week before on the same material. More than passed it, did well on it. If you think it was just a 2-semester phenomenon, you can look at 4 semesters of data. And I included on this graph a lab exam. This is a lab science course, so students take a lecture exam and a lab exam. The lab exam was given in the same 48-hour period as the lecture exam, but it wasn't proctored. So we can't just say that my spring 18 students weren't top students. They did just fine on the lab exam. So this was shocking, it was surprising, it was hard to see. I guess I can answer Dr. Drum's question and say, guess what? Siri and Alexa were very much a part of my course. I just didn't know it. There's just a few points that I want to make. In terms of a student, it's really important if people are going to proctor exams that students have adequate notice. The students in my pilot knew when they registered, they needed a webcam, a microphone, a good internet connection. They knew that they were proctoring. I think that's fair to do. Several students contacted me after the end of the semester and said, we pay a lab science fee, we pay a fee for online courses. Why isn't any of that being used to defray proctoring fees? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it, but it's maybe something to discuss. In terms of faculty, there's a couple issues faculty who are going to proctor exams might want to consider. When I did the pilot last semester, I created a special discussion board to share information with students. They knew why we were doing it, what we were doing. I wanted their feedback to take back to the Distance Learning Steering Committee. All the data you just saw, they saw. So they knew what was going on. I had very little feedback. Most of it on the positive side, that the process was pretty easy and worked well. That all changed when I got my anonymous evaluations at the end of the semester. Let's just say it's a good thing I have tenure already. Okay? I had a student say I should start looking for a new job, that I have absolutely no business being a teacher if I don't trust my students. Really negative comments when they were anonymous. It's just something to consider. I also think enrollment is going to be an issue. We have a lot of students taking these A&P online courses from other schools. I think when we beef up academic integrity a little, we may see a difference. And really, this is an issue of academic integrity. I understand that there are certain courses that you wouldn't need to worry about proctoring exams. And this is up to faculty and up to different departments. For the biology department, we've reviewed this data, we've met and voted unanimously that going forward, every online anatomy and physiology lecture exam will be proctored. Even if you do not have a course that you think requires proctoring, please understand that this is a campus issue. I know enough faculty here. I know how much we put into our courses, and I know how important it is for us to give our students the foundation to be successful as they move on in their education and their career. We have a great reputation at SUNY Broome because of all of that hard work. We can transfer courses all over. Other institutions don't just welcome our students, they seek them out. And we need to think about that as a college moving forward. So I think as this technology evolves, we do really need to keep up with it as a campus and consider whether we're doing all that we can to make sure that our online courses and our exams are actually valid experiences for the students. Thank you.
Dr. Nielsen, you make a compelling case, as I know you would. Thank you very much. That's very interesting. That is shocking stuff. And now I'd like to introduce our Associate Vice President, Dean of Health Sciences and Distance Learning, Dr. Amy Brandt.
Hey everybody. So I came up from Texas, so when someone says, hey y'all, you have to hey y'all back. So hey y'all. Hey y'all. All right. So this presentation comes out of a lot of feedback that I got from faculty and from chairs, specifically asking me questions about ADA compliance and concerns about ADA compliance and what does that mean and how do we accommodate students with disabilities in the classroom. And this is a real challenge, especially in my area, because we not only have lecture-based classes, we have clinical-based classes. So it began a conversation that I started having with the ARO. I pulled the instructional designers in, and we started to talk about how do we better support faculty with ADA issues. We did a lot of research, and that research led us down this hole that made us realize how complex this issue is. And all major institutions across the country are grappling with what ADA compliance means. And really, at its core, everything we read, at the core of this issue is a discussion about equity and inclusion for all students. So, today's presentation, I'd like to invite up Lisa Hughes and Emery. Emery's our new full-time instructional designer. Lisa's from the ARO. They're going to give a presentation. This presentation is not the end of this discussion. It is not the perfect solution to all your concerns, but it is the beginning of a discussion. And with this said, We're going to start this year doing our best to start carving away at this issue and trying to give you guys more meaningful support so you can really drive equity and inclusion for all students in their classes around the subject of digital content. So, is Emery and Lisa here?
Good morning. So when we're talking about students with disabilities, we're talking about the idea, even if we do our best planning for inclusion, we still may have some issues in terms of students who do not fit in based upon their disability. So the bottom line is we do have to be in compliance. Compliance comes from mandates through the law. So there's 3 laws that we're responsible for falling under. Section 504, which talks about the fact that we cannot discriminate against students who are otherwise qualified, and that affects institutions who receive any federal dollars. We also have to fall in line with the Americans with Disabilities Act, which it's a civil rights act. It's under Title II of the Civil Rights Act that talks about the access for students to auxiliary aids. And this sometimes has been an issue on the campus in understanding what are auxiliary aids. Things like note takers, interpreters, and the right to audio record would be considered auxiliary aids. And so those can be issues that are important for students to be able to have access, but they may raise some questions from the standpoint of the faculty member. The other piece that we work under is Section 508, which talks about the right of access to electronic and information technologies to students, and that's something we'll discuss a little bit further. One thing that I would like to say as we talk about the inclusion for students with disabilities is that we consider the idea that the disabled population really is the only minority population that any one of us could join tomorrow. And so if that helps changes your philosophy or your viewpoint of how we would provide an equitable situation for the student to work through, it's just a way of thinking about things a little bit. So if we have a situation where we have an occasion of non-compliance, a student wants to raise a question, they feel that their rights have been violated because they haven't been given an opportunity or a pathway of access to a course or an activity in the course. What that might bring about is an Office of Civil Rights complaint. And if we receive a complaint that has gone to OCR, what that involves is an investigation by folks from OCR who either come or phone and speak to any of the parties that are involved to find out what our actions have been to be inclusive to students, what kind of policies and procedures we have on campus. If it's determined that we were in violation of the policies or procedures that would allow the student access, they're going to recommend some corrective actions, and then they're also going to monitor our implementation of those corrective actions. The ultimate penalty for violating the civil rights of the student as an institution, and when we choose to not comply, would be our loss of any federal dollars, which includes Pell Grants and federal student loans. So some information from my good friend Laura Liddell shows that we would have a potential loss of $24 million. And information from Vice President Sullivan indicated that this would be about 40% of our operating budget. And you can see by those percentages, 51% of the students using Pell Grants and 73% of the students using student loans. This would have a huge impact on our institution. So it's important that we have conversations about how we can be inclusive, how we can accommodate those students who don't fit into our overall design of our courses. So taking a look at our disability prevalence on campus, students who register or self-disclose their disability to the Accessibility Resources Office, we represent about 10% of the population. This is just below the national average, which is about 11%. And you can see by the graph that the majority of students who identify would be those students that are categorized as having an invisible disability, a learning disability, an attention deficit disorder, or have mental health issues. Those are not things that are going to be evident when you look at your population that is sitting in your classroom. So those are things that you need to think about. How would I include a student who came to me with a particular issue? What are processes that I'm using that might be beneficial for a student who maybe doesn't fit into mine? And those are things that aren't always easy to anticipate. As an instructor, I haven't always covered every student. And I've had students who've had to come to me to say, listen, when we're doing group discussions, is there any way that my group can work in the hallway because with my hearing aids, I can't hear my group because there's too much chatter in the room. This is my field. I didn't anticipate that and I wasn't ready, but I had to be ready on the spot to change up my practice, to be ready to, how am I going to include that student? So that's what our office is for, the Accessibility Resources Office. And our job is to provide or help arrange for equal access for a student in a classroom. I view our role as not just to serve students, but also to serve faculty. We should be a partner with you. If you don't know, that's not your specialty, and you're not sure, how do I address this student's needs in my class, then I would hope that you would feel comfortable in contacting us and working with us, so that we shouldn't just be a standalone that's making rules and telling people what to do. That's not my job. My job is to work with you. We do reasonable and accommodative services that we will provide through our office. Again, they don't have to be through our office. They can be arranged directly and provided directly by you. But again, we want to make sure that they're equitable. I would say any student that you're going to provide academic accommodations to, make sure that you ask that student to show you their accessibility plan. That will verify that they've registered through the office, that you're not over accommodating a student just based upon the conversation, because you could run into trouble from another student who questions why you handled a certain situation in the way that you did. And lastly, I'd just like to mention the ideas of some intentional inclusion for students. Thinking about what we do, and this isn't just for the classroom, this is for our operating offices on campus, thinking about our environment. Is our environment accessible to students? If a student comes in a wheelchair or a motorized wheelchair tend to be larger, can they navigate our space? Can they navigate into your office area? Is that the only place you're willing to meet with a student, but they can't really get in? Thinking about the processes that you use, our instructional methods that we use in the classroom, or the processes that we use as a processing office. Are those inclusive for students who might have differences? And lastly, our materials that we use, are they in accessible format? If they're not in accessible format, John mentioned John Covert's assistant. John is our assistant technology specialist and can help you turn the materials that you're using into an accessible format for students who are using screen readers. This year we have several students who are legally blind, which we have not had in the past couple of years. So there's going to be some new challenges that some of you may face in your classroom. But please feel free to call us, and we're more than willing to help you address students' needs. Thank you.
I would like to start with the subtle difference between accommodations and accessibility. Those two terms go hand in hand. They complement each other, but they are not the same. First of all, accessibility is proactive and it involves the design stage. Secondly, it is for all the students, not only for the students with reported disabilities. And this idea of design actually is the idea behind all these different names we use for accessibility. For example, Department of Health and Human Services uses usability and user-centered design. In higher education, we use inclusive design and universal design. As the term suggests, accessibility is a question of diversity. This is a popular meme originally created to show the difference between equality and equity. As you can see, the design model for the average user is not working. We can either create individual solutions to accommodate each user with a specific need, or we can remove the barriers at the design stage. This doesn't mean that we will never need accommodations. Sometimes it is impossible to create fully accessible environments. In this scenario, the shortest person might still need a box, or they might have some other special needs that we cannot anticipate. But what we can do is to remove the obstacles, the blockers, without making any assumptions about what a person can and cannot do. A common example for universal design is the sidewalks with curb cuts. The curb cuts are designed for wheelchairs, but we know that parents with baby strollers and delivery workers are using them very often, and others also benefit from it. So this idea applies for the digital course content. The results of the recent surveys show 71% of students without hearing difficulties are using closed captioning. And some of them are using them as a learning aid. Almost 11% of screen reader users do not have any reported disabilities. And we should expect that number to be higher if we consider the mobile devices we use. You can imagine a student driving from home to work to school, talking to her phone. Okay, Google, read me my biology lecture notes. You know, that's the case of the use of a screen reader. And finally, not finally, is the one we have, the final one, design considerations. This is a summary of a checklist that we have. It's basically, we need to create multiple modalities, simple, clear organization of information, easy to read text, closed captioning for videos and transcripts for audio content, alternative text for images, and error-tolerant design. The good news is we are already doing most of these things. But we can do more just by paying attention to certain specific details. And once it becomes a habit, moving forward is really easy. Another good thing about accessibility is that you don't need some extreme technical knowledge to create accessible digital content. These are all commonly used software that are available on our campus. And as instructional designers also, we are offering other resources. We'll be offering workshops. We will have faculty guides. We will have a checklist, which is derived from the OSCAR rubric. And of course, we instructional designers are here to help you with your questions about creating accessible digital content. Thank you very much.
Emery, thank you. Lisa, Amy, thank you very much. Very important. And now Dave will guide us. Where is Dave? Dave? There comes Dave. As Dave comes up, these are interim facilities. You can imagine he's been a little busy. One of the things I love is to watch Dave look at the buildings. One day I caught him and I said, you look at that building like you're looking at your home. And he really does. He takes that personal care. And I want to give him a round of applause.
hear me all right? Yes. Do I need to speak loud? Because I like to walk around when I speak. So, when we last met, a lot of stuff was going on, and I've listed some of the more obvious stuff. The campus-wide door replacement project design has been completed. Construction contract will be next. You know about the AT boiler replacement design going on. Student Center girls locker room, we renovated that. The rest of that work will be done by our staff. The Titchener Hall cooling tower, we've reinforced the current cooling tower. We're looking at proposals to evaluate the design of a new cooling tower. Facilities master plan was presented to the SUNY Broome Board of Trustees. I'll get to that again in a minute. South wall of the West Gym was repaired, new protective matting was installed. In business labs 129, 132, 133, we put in new carpeting and painting. We removed old heating and cooling units in the BC Center and carpeted the 4 classrooms. The main entranceway to Titchener has been painted, if you haven't noticed, and we matched that up to the brick. Eastern Titchener entrance is underway, repair of that, concrete steps, bricks, and railing. You know we installed in light of the Civil War era map. We put a new starter motor, brine pumps, and condenser pumps in the ice center, and I got to talk to that for a minute. Yesterday I was at the ice center, and our guys, we put down the ice, they paint the ice, they install the ice, and it's really a pretty incredible process. So anytime you go to the ice center and you see what's out there, our guys did that, and I give them kudos for being able to do that as well as they do. New light pole electric was installed in parking lot 18, a couple of fire hydrants, water line and storm drain, LED lighting. The bottom line, though, is that last bullet, since we last met, our maintenance and custodial staff, or our facility staff, we have addressed and or completed over 1,000 of your requests since we met in January. So the only qualification I want to put on that is when you do submit a request, understand that we get an awful lot of these, and you're in the pecking order, and it will get done, and we will be sure it gets done, but understand that our guys have an awful lot of work to do across a campus that is aging. What's up next? As we talked about, campus-wide doors, AT boiler, Titchener cooling tower, continued renovation, the music program upgrades in the campus services building. We hope to, or we will, or we are going to provide a rehearsal room or develop a rehearsal room in that building. Repair of the tile floor in the AT atrium. We're creating a multicultural center in the old science building that's taking the place of the digital lounge. We're going to refurbish the Learning Resource Center entranceway and circulation desk area with new flooring and painting. We're going to try to provide upgrades to the AT lecture hall, AT 200, selective sidewalk upgrades, loading dock repair. We just purchased a new loader, thanks to Michael Sullivan. We're going to move the photography lab from the basement of Old Science to the new police center. Finally, but it's going to be a good spot for them, a good space for them. We are going to get to that construction of a new pedestrian bridge on the nature hiking trail. Kenny, if you're here, I promise. I promise. Is Kenny here? And facilities master plan was approved by the SUNY Broome Board of Trustees. I want to speak to the master plan real quickly, a couple of things. The library is one of our core buildings. Here's a current picture of the library. Here's a schematic or an artist's rendition of what that could possibly look like. We would add another level to that. We'd use a lot of glass. We would try to make that one of the focal points of the campus. Down here, this is old science. This is student services. If we develop that as proposed in the master plan, that becomes our one-stop. You can see we'd like to connect the two buildings. I also want to speak to the fact that we may investigate the possibility of including our controlled environmental agriculture effort in this mix, potentially on the roofs of these buildings. What we'd also like to do is connect business with student services or with the one-stop. And for as long as I'm here, I'm going to try to connect as many buildings as we can in this fashion, the connector between business and mechanical. One of the things I think we we were short-sighted of in the mechanical building reconstruction was that we could have connected that with that AT and we didn't. So maybe that'll be in a future project at some point. Okay, I've talked to most of these already, and I know we're running out of time, so I don't think there's anything else there that's of any real consequence. The Police Advanced Manufacturing Center, substantial completion date was August 14th. That was met. We received a certificate of occupancy this past Tuesday. Staff was able to move in starting yesterday, even though their offices aren't quite constructed yet from a furniture standpoint, but it's open. The grand opening will be on October 16th. We hope to have the quad graded and hydro-seeded by Monday for the opening of classes. With all the rain, it's been tough to get that done. You can't really push around mud very easily. This is the signing that will appear in the connector, the Paul and Mary Felice and Mildred Martin Advanced Manufacturing Center, because I think you all know the Felice family contributed a significant amount of money toward the construction of that. I'm not including any pictures. You guys got to get over and see that. The one other thing I want to talk about, and here's what's in there, I think everyone knows. There's our certificate of occupancy, and that's a big deal. Before I go to this, the connector, which is going to have a terrazzo floor, it has our college seal embedded in the terrazzo floor, and that's going to be, in my mind, a great gathering space or focal point for the college. If you haven't seen it yet, I suggest that you do, but wait for a few more days because they haven't finished the final buffing of that terrazzo floor. But once that's done, it's going to be a really, really, really nice space. And I think going back to the inception of this project, it was the right decision to connect those two buildings and develop that space. And you'll see what I mean if you go take a look at that. SUNY Broome Culinary Arts Center, as you know, that's all under construction now. We began work in June 2018. A lot of demolition work, about 90% complete. A lot of electrical rough-in work. Plaster remediation is going on. We have to strip off all the paint off the plaster. Foundation work, field measurements, target completion date is September 2019. Here's some interior photos of what's going on, and if you're familiar with it, at the entranceway there used to be a men's and ladies room that we've cleared out, and now we'll have full access to all 3 floors with that main staircase. These are some more interior photos. Down in the basement, we're doing a lot of work. Here's an exterior photo. We pulled the addition off the back. This is where the old elevator used to be. You can see here, this is where the dumbwaiter used to be. That'll all be filled in. We go back. Maria, you were there yesterday, right? Are you still here? How's it looking? It's coming, right? It looks really good. A big change from what, and this is just the demo part of it, right? So, and I know Ray was there as well, and they were both very happy. And with that, I'm going to end. The only other thing I want to say, these are Black-Eyed Susans, and we're going to continue to try to plant those across the campus so that ultimately the campus will be overrun by Black-Eyed Susans, because I really like Black-Eyed Susans, but more importantly, they're the color of the school, the gold and the black. So, thank you very much.
Got to get him excited about this. Let me see. So now, Dr. Ross, our Vice President for Student Development and Diversity, newest colleague, welcome to the stage. Here she comes.
So Fran said I have 1 minute to make this happen. Yeah. No, take 8 minutes off, sure. So this past year, I spent my time. My hair is my hairstyle because I'm in midlife crisis. Fran, see, it's Fran. It's all about Fran. This past year, I spent the last year, learning about SUNY Broome, learning about SUNY, some of their policies, and internalizing the stories from our students, and as well as trying to make heads or tails of this diversity thing. So now I'm ready to hit the ground running, because what I've heard from our students is that they're afraid that they're going to fail. they just want to come and fit in, and that they need time to adjust. Is that mine? Okay, I think I'm missing the slide. I'm missing the slide, but anyway, one of the reasons why this is so important to me, at least from when we look at the students of color on campus, not that I have this year's data, fall 17 to fall 18, but from 16 to 17, the students of color, we only retain 40% of them. And if we think about it, that is really an abysmal kind of statistic. So for me, what's most important and what we should really understand is that it's cheaper to keep, this always throws me when there's stuff that's in here that I don't know about. Okay, whatever. I'm sorry. That has really thrown me. Because one of my philosophies, particularly with regards to student persistence, is that it's always cheaper to keep students. And it's very easy for us to retain students, but we would need to think about retaining students so that they and make sure that they persist to their degree completion. So some of the strategies that need to be used are intentional strategies and understanding their concerns, helping students learn how to change their narrative and bringing this campus to life. For me, it is most important to bring this campus to life. And not that you guys didn't have any life before I got here, because I'm not the end-all be-all. But one of the things I want to make sure that we do, because we know that for student persistence and retention, that engagement outside of the classroom that enhances that learning experience is one of the key variables to their persistence. So making sure that the extra and co-curricular activities are sound is very, very important. Making sure that we have a multicultural resources center, thank you, Dave, it's very, very important for the cohort of students, and it's more than just Black people, it's more than just Hispanic people, it's for our international students, it's for anybody who feels that they want to walk into the Multicultural Resource Center. That is your center, that is your safe space. Also addressing impacting variables like child care center. One of my priorities, since my grandson is 6 and going to the 1st grade now, but making sure that our child care center is 21st century. You know, when you don't have clean carpet, when you don't have a safe playground, where are you gonna put your baby in that place? So that needs to be a priority for us. So that's gonna be a huge investment. Thank you, Dave, again, for you guys bringing that up to speak. Financial aid, you know, New York always amazes me, so you can tell I'm not from New York. But it is so expensive to go here, even for an in-state student. And so making sure that students understand the whole picture of financial aid is very, very important. Not only that, students don't even know that they have work study. You know that you can supplant some of your loans and get federal work study. They need to work on campus, because when they're on campus, we know where they are, we know what they're doing, and we can make sure that they're studying. So that is very, very important for us to make sure that they do that. In addition to that, you know, one of my favorite little cohorts, and everybody knows, is the Student Village. And for me, that captive cohort of 350-something students, you know, I told Amy and them yesterday I want 100% persistence and 100% success rate. So Ellie, who's here now, is also responsible in terms of working with Christine, who's the faculty mentor, to knock on the doors. Why aren't you in class? You know you have class at this time. What's going on in your life? Because we need to change that narrative for those students, because they're here. And the other thing that I want to change with those students is to make sure that everybody has an educational plan. Because if you have an educational plan, you know what you're going to take in the fall, you know what you're going to take in the spring, whether you need to be here in the summer, and what you're going to take next, because that's subliminal success. And if we can implant that for them, we can enhance the success of our students. So that for me is very, very important. And then enhancing the diversity of our applicant pools. I hear from the students of color all the time, nobody here looks like me except for you. Okay? So we need to work on that, and it's much easier said than done. But that is also very, very important. Let me see what my next slides say. Other stuff. Let's go down to other stuff. So quickly, what lies ahead, because you know I got friends like, quickly what lies ahead is we really, really, really need for you all to support us for volunteer on Saturday. I know it's Saturday and classes start on Monday, but when parents see you and they see you out there helping their kids move in, and you give those hugs, because some of the people are going to be glad that their kids are gone, others are going to be sad. We need to let them know that their kids are coming to a safe place. The other thing that I want to make sure of that I mentioned is that our continuing education department, Jan, and under her leadership with her team, have put us on the map of workforce development. Not only were they profitable this year, but there are quite a few individuals who've been dislocated, who are underemployed, who are now in the workforce because we've been engaged in workforce development and partnerships with the people in the community. So I want to commend Jan and her team because that is incredibly important. Because as a community college, we are responsible for what goes on in this community. This year, Alberto's got students from Mexico, Germany, and even Russia. So kudos to Alberto. Our grants program will continue to support the fiscal stability of the institution. And I'm going to work feverishly, and those of you who are student org advisors, please understand that we are working to make sure that we are able to engage a broader mix of our students. And that's going to mean that some of the policies and procedures associated with the allocation and the distribution of the student activities fees is going to change. Please also keep in mind that students pay into the student activity fund. So if we have fewer students, we have fewer funds. And so as a division, on behalf of my division, finding synergy in this chaos is what's going to make sure that our students are successful. Thank you and have a great day.
Here she comes, and I'm sure she'll talk a little bit about police and some other stuff.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I think everything's all about perspective. I'm always last on the agenda, and I bring it up every year as people are walking out the door. And my perspective is, I would like to thank all my esteemed colleagues for serving as my opening acts today, and that I am thrilled to be here as the headliner of today's So I probably have about 40 seconds, so Penny, that means I'll be about 16 minutes. For those of you that don't know, the foundation is the charitable organization that is responsible for raising all of the private support to support only SUNY Broome Community College, its students, its faculty, its campus, and its programs. We had another really successful fiscal year due in part to a positive return on our investments in the market. For those of you that are not aware, we have an endowed pool of funds that we use, we invest, they are protected, the principal is protected, and we use the earnings to fund all kinds of things on campus. Our largest single priority is, and always has been, student scholarships and support, but we do a number of things, including faculty development, capital projects across campus. We were very happy to provide the local match of $3.4 million for the police center, and we're pretty excited about that opening. So our total revenues this past year were $5.1 million. That included donations and investment returns. We awarded nearly $3.2 million in student awards, faculty development grants, funding for campus projects and initiatives. And we were very excited to have more young alumni and student participation this year. The favorite part of my job is standing up in front of you and telling you that one of the graduates of this institution unfortunately passed away suddenly this past year. He was a graduate of the class of 1964 in physical engineering. and he went on to have a lifetime career, got advanced degrees. We received a estate bequest from him totaling more than $1.5 million that we didn't even know about. We got the first payment on that, which is $900,000, which is part of why our revenue bumped up significantly. And that fund has been endowed to create the Frederick Emerson Innovation Fund, and we'll be talking more about that as we work with the family to identify the priorities associated with the kinds of things that we could do to honor Mr. Emerson's memory. We have several new endowed and annual student scholarships this year, so we're pretty excited about that. One of the things we find is that it's really easy for us to raise student scholarship support. We had some challenges with trying to explain the impact of Excelsior Scholarship this year, but at the end of the day, we still ended up making the case for folks who want to support students. So we're very, very fortunate. My team and I just came back from Monroe Community College yesterday. We were up there doing a little information sharing session. Just wanted to let you know that Monroe's enrollment hovers around 15,000 students per year, and we give away proportionately more money back to our students than Monroe, one of our flagship institutions, is able to do. So yay us, yay our students. We often take in gifts that are not monetary in value. We had two kind of very cool gifts this year that were given to us. One from Professor Doug Garner, who I don't need to say any more about Doug. Everybody knows and loves him very much. He donated a United States map that was an example of what the country looked like in the Civil War. And the thing is an amazing piece. It's in the hallway, first floor hallway of Titchener. We were able to have it framed and restored, and it's down there. We're going to be doing a little ceremony with Doug. We'll certainly invite everybody on campus, but I'd love you to take a look at it. It is a beautiful piece, and it's also an amazing tool that our students can look at. And yeah, it's just like American pickers would be thinking if they saw that. We also received a donation of a large 6 by 8 foot Michael Tanzer painting. Many of you know Michael Tanzer was a faculty member here on campus, a very prolific artist in our community who passed away a number of years ago. That painting and a art show of Michael's work came to us this summer, and it's going to have a very prominent place on a large brick wall in the Nucleus Center, so we're pretty excited about that. Some of the projects that the foundation continues to support, you know about this. Mark your calendar for November 27th. That is 24 hours of giving at SUNY Broome. That's our Giving Tuesday, and we have a lot of activities on campus, and we run a virtual campaign, and it's where we get a lot of people to donate in a 24-hour period to support our programs. Faculty and staff campaign. Every year we have a kickoff. We always give away really cool things. My hobby is to make gift baskets, so stay tuned because I'm percolating on what I'm going to be doing this year. Some of it might involve alcohol, so you've got to be 21 to participate in that one. So you can support the faculty and staff campaign. Many of the people in this room do so via payroll deduction every year. You can always make an outright gift. The majority of the endowed scholarships and major gifts that we've gotten in the last 5 years have been set up by faculty, current faculty, or retiring faculty. So we get that you might not be able to do it now, but we'd love to talk to you about the future. I just wanted to give a shout out. I know that they mentioned earlier the addition of the new students or new faculty and staff who come to Broome. I did want to welcome Erin Merritt to the other end of the hallway on the second floor in Wales. Erin is now our full-time communication specialist in the foundation, and she will be working on a lot of the same things that she would do in Marcom, but also helping us to increase our alumni engagement and working with our constituents to raise more money. I also wanted to let you know that Lisa Shappert joined our staff in January. I know that that was announced, replacing Andrea Roma, who, she's right back there in the corner. She didn't go far. She walked across the hall to the Fast Forward program. And she's still very much a part of the foundation family because she still uses our refrigerator. So she hasn't gone far. We miss her and we're happy to still have her. And we also welcome Tony Zostant, who came upstairs from admissions to join us as our Director of Alumni Engagement. We want to partner with any organization on campus that will have us. So we need your help. If you have relationships with alumni, please let us know so we can connect. If you're bringing them to campus for any reason or you're connected with them, let us know. We'd love to welcome them when they come to campus. Don't worry, we're not going to ask them for money. They're going to come and throw money at us at some point. We know it. We just want to say thank you for coming. And our faculty and staff, a lot of our faculty and staff are alumni. And we throw a great party. Just want to let you know, all faculty and staff are always invited to every alumni event that we have. We have an event out at Tioga Downs on September 8th. Last year we had 175 people attend. And just want to let you know, for $35, you get an open bar, $10 free play, visit with all your SUNY Broome family, unlimited food, and a lot of fun. So let us know if you want to attend. And our magazine, thank you, Erin Merritt, our communication specialist, is the one that designs this. I just want to tell you one thing. This magazine solely has been responsible for 2 major gifts, and that's a 10,000 plus up gift that we've gotten in the past 12 months. And the most recent one was actually from an alum who graduated from engineering science program in the early 80s. And he picked up the phone and he called us one day and he said, I just got my magazine, the nursing magazine, and I read it from cover to cover. And I want to let you know that I am an engineer in the beverage industry. He had an entire career with Coca-Cola. He traveled internationally. He never made a gift to us. On the phone, he had read the magazine and he said, I was a refugee from Lebanon who escaped the Civil War. An engineering science professor took me under her wing. I could barely speak English. And she helped me and helped me make that path. He made a $25,000 commitment over the phone that very day. And he said, it's my turn and I want to give back. And you people changed my life. So that's all of you doing that every day. And my predecessor, or the person who follows me, maybe 2 or 3 people, is going to step back and say, someone in this room influenced the students that are currently on this campus, and they are going to give back. So I guarantee it 100%. Thank you for working with us. We've got a lot more coming. We're in the feasibility study of a comprehensive fundraising campaign. We'll let you know more about that as that comes up. And thank you very much for your support.
Kathy, thank you. You're always so supportive. I appreciate that. Great, we all do. So a few things. We're at the end of our presentation. A few thank yous. I want to thank Sarah Forbes, Sylvia Briga, and Matt Ebers who put this all together. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to make sure we thank all full-time, part-time faculty, staff, administrators, board members, and county legislators, because they're all in this, all of us working this together. Also this afternoon, I want to put a shout out for the Achieving Success Workshop that's on this afternoon. This group of people have really done great work. They have these work teams, 7 work teams that have done an amazing job. Please go there, and really we need more and more people involved with that. So in closing, do we have the closing video?
I chose SUNY Broome because my dad was an alumni. Every teacher I've had is amazing.
My first few professors I had, even the first day, I could tell they cared about us and what we were trying to do. And basically all of my professors I really enjoyed having. They were fun. Obviously we learned, but they made it a little less tedious.
Some of the standout professors that I've had, Dr. Miller from the chemistry department, he was always available to help. I would always go to his office hours. He was amazing. Professor Lofthouse is amazing. I had him for Design 1 Lab, and he's just very patient with people, and just a good teacher and a lot of fun to be around.
Tracy Curtis, because I had her for 2 years in Bio 117 and 118, and she introduced me to a lot of opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten if I hadn't been in, first of all, her classes, and second of all, at Broome.
Professor Modrak, physics teacher, he was also amazing. Very just relaxed and down-to-earth person, so I enjoyed his class a lot.
I had a professor helping me out because I had a lot of credits already from high school, and it was Dr. Frenzy, and he got me into the honors bio program, and he encouraged me to go on the Ecology of the Everglades trip in class, take that class, and the Ecology of the National Parks class, which were both great experiences.
Professor Bremer from the math department. At first, I was like, wow, this class is really hard. But as I went to his office hours more and he kind of recognized the effort that I was putting in, it was just a great class. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And looking back on it, he's probably one of the best teachers I've had.
Dr. Frenzy and Tracy Curtis have helped me through a lot, both emotionally, unfortunately for them, and academically.
I think one of the fondest memories is not only making friends with students my age, but just forming bonds with professors and realizing they have interests outside of school. They're people too. Like in high school, I was like, oh, are they just robots or something? But they're people too, and it's nice to be friends with teachers. I find that very interesting.
It's definitely good to be home and able to still have the college experiences that everyone here basically has been great. I've really enjoyed my time here.
Thank you for being what every teacher should be. And it's sad that not every college has teachers like this. So it's another reason why I'm glad I started here. Because, it's just great to have teachers who actually care.
We do great work. We got more to do. And it's all about what happens in the work that you do. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic semester. Thank you. Have a great day.